The neighborhood looked like any other quiet suburban street. Rows of neat houses, manicured lawns, and a sense of calm that made most residents proud to call it home. But for the protagonist, a homeowner named Alex, that calm was slowly unraveling. It started with something small. One Monday morning, after the weekly trash collection, Alex stepped outside to retrieve the bins from the curb. That's when they noticed it. The bins were crushed, not just knocked over, but actually flattened, as if someone had slammed them down with deliberate force. Alex blinked, thinking maybe it was an accident. The garbage truck, a neighborhood kid messing around. But the bins were always set in the exact same spot every week, carefully aligned against the driveways. No way the truck could have done that, and there were no signs of kids nearby. The following week, it happened again. And then again, every Monday morning, without fail, the bins were crushed, twisted, or shoved into the bushes. It was as if someone was playing a cruel game. One Alex didn't understand and didn't want to play. But the worst part wasn't the damage to the bins. It was the feeling that someone was targeting them, watching them. At first, Alex tried to brush it off. Maybe it was a prank, or a neighbor who didn't like the way Alex arranged their trash cans. Maybe it was just random vandalism. But as the pattern continued, the suspicion grew into something heavier. Rumors began to swirl among the neighbors. They whispered about Karen. The woman who lived across the street. Karen was known for her sharp tongue, her no-nonsense attitude, and an obsession with keeping the neighborhood perfect. She was the kind of person who complained to the HOA about lawn heights and door colors, who drilled her point home with icy glares and clipped emails. Karen was the prime suspect, though no one had proof, and Alex didn't want to jump to conclusions. But Karen's smug smile, whenever they crossed paths, only added to the tension. One afternoon, as Alex brought in the bins, they saw Karen standing on her porch, arms crossed, watching with a look that sent a chill down their spine. Without a word, Karen gave a slow nod, almost as if daring Alex to complain. Alex clenched their jaw and walked inside, the weight of uncertainty settling over them. Was Karen really behind this? If so, why? What did crushing bins have to do with keeping the neighborhood perfect? That night, Alex lay awake, replaying every interaction, every suspicious glance. The peaceful neighborhood felt like a stage for a silent war, one where the weapons were trash bins and the stakes were respect and sanity. Determined to get to the bottom of it, Alex started watching the bins closely, waiting for the next Monday morning showdown. They even considered talking to Karen directly, though the thought made their stomach twist. As the sun rose on Monday, Alex stood by the window, eyes fixed on the curb. Would the bins be destroyed again? Would the mystery finally reveal itself? Or would the silence stretch on? Filled with unspoken threats and a growing tension, no one else seemed to notice. The bin sat untouched, for now. But Alex knew this was just the beginning. Something was coming, something deliberate, and they needed to be ready. The morning sun cast long shadows over the quiet street. But to Alex, the stillness was anything but peaceful. Monday had come and gone without the usual destruction. No crushed bins, no scattered trash. For a brief moment, relief flickered. Maybe the nightmare was over. But deep down, Alex knew better. Rumors spread quickly in the neighborhood, a murmur beneath the polite greetings and painted fences. The word on the street was simple. Karen was behind it all. The same woman who had made a reputation for herself as the self-appointed guardian of the neighborhood's standards was now suspected of petty vandalism. No one wanted to say it aloud. Karen was, after all, a long-time resident with friends in the HOA, a woman who carried herself like a queen, ruling a small kingdom. Her sharp eyes missed nothing, and her temper was as infamous as her perfectly trimmed hedges. Alex tried to keep their distance, watching Karen from afar whenever possible. On the surface, she was the picture of suburban grace, standing on her porch with a cup of coffee, chatting with neighbors, waving at passing kids. But there was something else, a coldness lurking beneath the surface, like a storm waiting to break. One evening, Alex caught sight of Karen slipping outside well after dusk, carrying what looked like a large, heavy bag. The street was quiet, the only sound the crunch of leaves underfoot. Karen moved quickly, glancing around as if expecting someone or something to appear from the shadows. Alex's heart pounded. Was this the proof they needed? The sabotage wasn't just about bins anymore. Something deeper was unfolding, and Karen was at the center of it. But even as suspicion tightened its grip, Alex realized something unsettling. No one else seemed to notice the signs. The other neighbors were too busy with weekend barbecues, PTA meetings, and their own lives. To them, the bins were just bins. The noise was just noise. The tension was invisible. That made Alex feel painfully alone. Determined not to let the mystery spiral out of control, Alex started keeping a journal, noting every detail: the time the bins went missing, the strange sounds at night, Karen's odd behavior. They even tried casual conversations with neighbors, fishing for clues, but most shrugged, unwilling to get involved. One afternoon, Alex found a small piece of paper slipped under their door. It was a note, unsigned, written in neat but cold handwriting. Some things are better left alone. No threats, but the message was clear. Someone was watching. Someone wanted Alex to stop digging. The chill that ran through Alex was more than the late autumn breeze. They realized this was no longer about crushed bins or petty neighborly disputes. It was a silent battle, one where every move was watched and every word weighed. With the unease growing heavier, Alex decided it was time to face Karen directly. They rehearsed what to say, polite but firm, seeking answers without blame. But the thought of confronting someone so intimidating made Alex's hands tremble. Still, the mystery demanded courage. That night, as Alex lay awake under the dim glow of the bedside lamp, a plan began to form. If words wouldn't work, maybe actions would. Maybe it was time to catch the culprit in the act. Because one thing was certain, the bins would be crushed again. And this time, Alex intended to be ready. The following days passed in a tense blur. Alex moved through the neighborhood like a shadow, eyes constantly scanning for any sign of movement near the bins. The once comforting quiet of the street now felt thick with unease, as if the air itself was holding its breath. Every creak of a door, every distant footstep, jolted Alex's nerves. Sleep became a luxury. Each night was filled with restless hours spent peering through curtains, waiting for the inevitable. And then, strange things began to happen. One night, as Alex prepared for bed, a soft thud echoed outside, too deliberate to be the wind. Heart pounding, Alex grabbed a flashlight and stepped onto the porch, scanning the darkened driveway. There was nothing unusual, no sign of intruders or damage, but the feeling of being watched lingered, like eyes burning into the back of Alex's head. The bin sat untouched. For now, on another night, Alex spotted footprints near the trash area. Fresh, muddy prints that led away from the driveway and disappeared into the shadows between the houses. There was no denying it anymore. Someone was prowling around after dark, carefully avoiding streetlights and neighbors. The tension escalated when a neighbor, Mrs. Whitaker, stopped Alex one afternoon. She was an elderly woman, sweet but sharp-eyed, and she whispered hurriedly, "I've heard noises near my garden. Footsteps. And whispers. You're not imagining things. There's something off lately. I'm worried." Alex nodded grimly, realizing it wasn't just their paranoia. Something was wrong in the neighborhood. Something bigger than crushed bins. Desperation set in. The silent war with an unseen enemy had turned into something almost menacing. Alex's mind raced with possibilities. Was Karen truly the culprit, or was she just a convenient scapegoat? Was there someone else lurking in the shadows, pulling strings and stirring trouble? The unknown bred fear. That fear pushed Alex to reach out to the HOA board, hoping they might intervene, or at least investigate. But the response was disappointingly apathetic. "It's just trash bins," one member said dismissively. "Kids being kids, or a one-time prank. Don't make a mountain out of a molehill." Alex left the meeting feeling isolated and frustrated. The community's complacency was almost as maddening as the ongoing sabotage. Back home, the situation worsened. One evening, after a particularly long day, Alex returned to find a chilling sight. The bins were crushed again, but this time, the damage was different. The lids were smashed open, and scattered among the trash were small, threatening notes written in red ink. "Stop watching. Mind your business. Or else." The messages sent a cold shiver down Alex's spine. Whoever was behind this was escalating, becoming bolder and more dangerous. With every bin destruction, every silent threat, Alex's resolve hardened. This wasn't just a petty feud anymore. It was a battle for control, for respect, and for peace of mind. But Alex knew that confronting Karen directly was risky. Karen had the reputation and the network to make things worse if provoked. Still, standing by and doing nothing was no longer an option. So Alex began planning in secret. Days were spent researching surveillance devices online. Nights were dedicated to sketching ideas for a trap that could catch the saboteur in the act. Something clever, something foolproof. Because whoever was behind this needed to be stopped. And Alex was ready to fight back. No matter the cost, Alex stood on the edge of their driveway, rehearsing the words they hoped would end the silent war. After weeks of mounting frustration, of crushed bins, and threatening notes, they had decided it was time to try one last approach. Direct communication. Maybe a calm, honest conversation with Karen could clear the air. Maybe it was all a misunderstanding. The next morning, Alex drafted a polite but firm note. They took care with every sentence, avoiding blame while expressing their desire for peace. The note read, "Dear Karen, I hope this message finds you well. I've noticed some disturbances around the bins recently and wanted to reach out directly to understand if there's an issue we can resolve together. I'd appreciate the chance to talk and find a peaceful solution. Thank you." With a deep breath, Alex slipped the note under Karen's door. The act felt like a truce offering. An olive branch extended across a divide that had grown far too wide. But the neighborhood didn't respond as hoped. That afternoon, Alex noticed the note was gone. No reply. No sign that Karen had even seen it. The silence was unsettling. Then, as the sun dipped low behind the trees, a different message appeared. This time, it was no polite note. It was a threat. A small envelope, carefully folded, slipped through Alex's mail slot without a sound. Alex's hands trembled as they opened it. Inside was a single card, stark white with a chilling message scrawled in sharp red letters. "Some things are better left alone." No signature, no explanation, just the cold words that hinted at danger. A wave of unease crashed over Alex. The neighborhood that had once seemed safe now felt like a trap. The bins were no longer the target. Alex was. For the first time, the frustration gave way to fear. Alex looked over their shoulder, half expecting to see someone watching. The shadows at the edge of the yard seemed to stretch longer. The silence, deeper. What had started as a strange nuisance was morphing into something more sinister. A quiet threat designed to intimidate and silence. That night, sleep was impossible. Alex lay awake, the card's warning burning in their mind. Who had sent it? Karen? Or someone else, lurking behind the scenes? And what would happen if they pushed further? The following days were tense. Alex avoided leaving the house after dark, glancing anxiously at every movement. The crushed bins still appeared on Monday mornings. But now they were accompanied by a feeling of dread. Alex realized that whatever was happening wasn't just about bins or petty grievances. It was a battle for control, and someone was willing to go to great lengths to win. But Alex refused to back down. If talking hadn't worked, then other methods were needed. If threats were the response to peace, then Alex would need to fight. Fire with fire. And so, with a mix of determination and caution, Alex began preparing, researching traps, surveillance, and ways to catch whoever was behind the sabotage in the act. The silent war had escalated, but Alex was ready to meet it head-on. Because, sometimes, the only way to stop a shadow is to shine a light on it, no matter how dark the path ahead. Alex's living room had transformed into a makeshift command center. The coffee table was buried under manuals, surveillance equipment, and sketches of possible traps. It was a far cry from the peaceful suburban life they had once known. Now, every detail mattered. For nights, Alex researched covert cameras, tiny devices that could be hidden without detection. They found motion sensors and silent alarms, items used by detectives and security experts. Their goal was clear: catch the bin crusher in the act, without alerting the culprit. But it wasn't just about proof anymore. It was about regaining control, reclaiming their sanity, and ending the fear that had settled in their chest like a stone. Alex devised a plan that was clever and harmless, but guaranteed to expose whoever dared tamper with the bins again. They rigged a lightweight platform beneath the bins, designed to tilt and trigger a silent alert when pressure was applied. Nearby, a hidden camera with night vision was positioned perfectly to capture every angle. The plan was simple: wait for Monday morning, watch the live feed, and finally unmask the mystery saboteur. As the weekend ticked by, the tension built. Alex's mind raced with scenarios. What if it was Karen? What if it was someone else entirely? And what if the trap backfired, making things worse? Despite the nerves, Alex was resolute. The bins would no longer be a target of destruction. This time, the tables were turning. Late Sunday night, Alex placed the final piece of the setup. They hid the small monitor in the living room, plugged in and ready to stream the footage, live to their phone. Every creak in the house felt louder, every shadow darker. Monday dawned cold and grey. Alex barely slept. The phone clutched tightly, eyes fixed on the screen. Hours passed in agonizing silence. Then, just as the sun began to rise, movement flickered on the monitor. A figure appeared, moving cautiously toward the bins. Alex's heart pounded in their ears. The figure paused, looking around nervously. The bins stood in perfect alignment, an unspoken challenge. Slowly, deliberately, the figure reached down and crushed the bins with practiced force. The camera zoomed in, and Alex's breath caught. It was Karen. But then, something unexpected happened. As Karen turned to leave, a shadow moved behind her. A flicker too fast to catch at first. The camera caught a glimpse of someone else, lurking just out of the frame, watching. Alex froze. Was Karen acting alone? Or was there a partner in this silent war? Someone else manipulating the scene, hiding in the shadows. Questions flooded Alex's mind. The neat, simple battle they had imagined was anything but. The trap had worked. But it had revealed only part of a larger, darker story. Alex knew the next steps would be critical. They had the evidence they needed, but now it was time to face Karen and demand answers. Yet beneath the relief of catching the culprit, a new unease settled in. Who was the shadowy figure? And what role did they play in this suburban war? Alex realized that the quiet neighborhood was far more complicated and dangerous than anyone had imagined. The footage played on repeat in Alex's mind, like a haunting loop. Karen, the seemingly invincible queen of the cul-de-sac, had been caught red-handed crushing the bins every week. The image of her sneering expression, cold and deliberate, was burned into Alex's memory. But there was that shadowy figure, a fleeting presence lurking just behind Karen. Someone who seemed to watch silently from the darkness, almost like a ghost tethered to the scene. Alex knew confronting Karen was inevitable. Armed with undeniable proof, they rehearsed every possible conversation. But when the moment came, nothing went as planned. One afternoon, Alex found Karen on her porch, tending to her roses. The late spring sun caught the glint in her eyes. Sharp, unyielding, but something else flickered beneath. Vulnerability, fear. Alex approached cautiously, the evidence burning in their pocket. Karen, Alex began, voice steady but firm. I know what you've been doing with the bins. I have proof. Karen paused, wiped her hands on her apron, and looked up, her eyes narrowing. So you finally caught me, she said quietly, almost resigned. I was wondering how long it would take. Alex braced for anger or denial. But Karen's next words shattered expectations. It's not what you think, she said. I didn't crush those bins because I wanted to make your life miserable. Alex blinked, confused. Then why? They asked. Karen's gaze flicked toward the street and she lowered her voice. There's someone else, someone worse. I've been trying to protect the neighborhood. Alex's heart skipped. Could this explain the shadowy figure in the footage? Karen continued. That night, I saw someone lurking near your driveway. They were watching you, watching all of us. I thought if I made it clear I was paying attention, I could scare them off. Her words cast everything in a new light. Karen wasn't just a mean neighbor. She was fighting a hidden battle. Alex listened as Karen described strange noises, footsteps in the dark, and eerie messages left on porches. The bin crushing was a warning, a way to keep the intruder guessing, to buy time. But who? Alex asked, feeling the weight of the mystery deepen. Karen hesitated, then shook her head. I don't know. But you're not the only one who's been targeted. The two stood in silence, the quiet hum of the neighborhood suddenly heavy with secrets. Alex realized the silent war had more players than they ever imagined, and the shadow in the footage, whoever it was still out there. The revelation changed everything. Karen wasn't the enemy. She was a reluctant guardian, trapped in a game she hadn't asked to play. For the first time, Alex saw her not as a rival, but as a potential ally. But trust wasn't easy. How can I be sure you're telling the truth? Alex asked. Karen's lips twitched into a grim smile. You'll just have to watch your bins a little longer. As Karen turned and walked away, Alex felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. The enemy was no longer a single person. It was a mystery that lurked in the shadows of their perfect little neighborhood, and now Alex was caught in the middle. After the surprising conversation with Karen, Alex felt the world shift beneath their feet. The lines between friend and foe blurred into something uncertain, complicated, and dangerous. For years, Alex had seen Karen as a thorn in the side, a petty enemy who took pleasure in sabotage and intimidation. But now, she was a reluctant warrior in a battle Alex hadn't even known existed. The next few days were a whirlwind of tension and uneasy truce. Karen showed no sign of stopping her nightly patrols, and Alex doubled down on their own surveillance efforts. The bins became a symbol, a fragile front line in an invisible war. One evening, as dusk settled over the street, Karen knocked on Alex's door. Her expression was serious, almost urgent. "I found something," she said, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "Something that might explain the shadow." Alex motioned toward the living room, where the surveillance setup hummed softly. Karen pulled out her phone and showed Alex a grainy photo taken with a hidden camera she had set up on her porch. The image was blurry, but unmistakable. A tall figure in dark clothes lurking near Alex's driveway, their face obscured by a hoodie. "Someone's been watching us. All of us," Karen said quietly. "And it's not just the bins. They're trying to scare us, to make us afraid." Alex swallowed hard. Fear had crept into their veins over the past weeks, and now it was a living, breathing presence. "We need to do more," Alex said, heart racing. "We can't just wait for them to make the next move." Karen nodded. "Agreed. But we have to be smart. Whoever this is, they're careful, and they know we're watching." That night, the two neighbors sat side by side, planning their next step. They agreed to combine resources: Alex's tech-savvy surveillance and Karen's local knowledge and contacts in the HOA. But just as a fragile alliance began to form, the unexpected happened. Around midnight, a loud crash echoed from Alex's driveway. Alex and Karen rushed outside to find the bins again, this time completely destroyed. The plastic shattered and strewn across the pavement, but there was something new. A message written in spray paint on the side of Alex's garage: "Stay out of it." The words burned like a warning. Fear and anger twisted inside Alex, but Karen's steady presence kept the panic at bay. "We're dealing with someone dangerous," Karen said grimly. "Someone who doesn't want us snooping." As the night deepened, the two knew one thing for sure. This mystery wasn't just about bins or petty neighborly feuds anymore. It was something darker, something that threatened their peace and safety. And now they were both targets. The quiet street had become a battleground, and Alex and Karen were the last line of defense. The question was, how far were they willing to go to protect their home? The spray-painted warning on Alex's garage still burned in their mind as dawn crept over the neighborhood. The message was clear: stay out of it. But Alex and Karen knew better. They couldn't back down now. Not when the stakes had become so high. Together, they set their trap one final time. This time bigger, smarter, and impossible to miss. They rigged the bins with hidden cameras, motion sensors, and a lightweight cage mechanism designed to snap shut the moment someone tried to crush or tamper with the trash. Karen helped by spreading subtle rumors, hinting that the neighborhood was watching closely, hoping to rattle whoever was behind the attacks. Monday came with a thick fog hanging low over the street. Alex sat inside, eyes glued to the monitor, while Karen kept watch from her porch across the road. Hours ticked by without incident. Just as hope began to flicker, the camera caught movement in the mist. A figure approached, slow, deliberate, and cautious. Alex's pulse quickened. The silhouette grew clearer. It was a woman. As the figure reached the bins, the cage snapped shut with a sudden click. Trapped. The woman froze, then looked up, eyes wide with shock. Alex and Karen rushed outside, hearts pounding. To their astonishment, the culprit was not who anyone expected. It wasn't Karen. It wasn't some mysterious stranger. It was Mrs. Whitaker, the sweet, elderly neighbor who had warned Alex about noises, who had seemed so innocent and concerned. Alex's jaw dropped. Mrs. Whitaker looked down at the cage, then up at Alex and Karen, her hands trembling. "I didn't want to hurt anyone," she whispered, voice cracking. "I just wanted attention. I've been lonely since my husband passed. The bins. They were my way of making people notice me." The revelation stunned Alex. The real enemy had been hiding in plain sight, masked by kindness and quietness. Karen stepped forward gently. "Mrs. Whitaker, you scared us, but maybe we can find another way to help. You don't have to be alone." Tears welled in the older woman's eyes. The tension that had gripped the neighborhood began to thaw. In the days that followed, the bins remained untouched. The neighborhood's quiet was restored. But the lesson lingered. Sometimes, the battles we fight aren't against the obvious enemy, but the silent struggles hidden beneath the surface. Alex and Karen's uneasy alliance had become a bridge, and a reminder that understanding and compassion could be the strongest traps of all. And as the neighborhood settled back into its peaceful rhythm, the bins stood tall and uncrushed, a symbol not of conflict, but of community.